Good morning, esteemed guests and participants. A very warm welcome to this momentous occasion. I am Nikshita Naya, your host for the session. As we navigate through the diverse array of topics and discussions, let's keep in mind the wise words of Srimata Amritanandamai Devi, who once said, today's youth are the pillars of tomorrow's world. The young have the potential to make the great change in the world. We should channel their energy towards a good cause. In that note, I would like to invite all the dignitaries on the stage to begin the session by lighting the lamp. I invite Sri Raghava Krishna ji, Sri Pankaj Saxena ji, Sri Amritanshu Pandey, Sri Anurag Shukla, Brahmachari Achyutamrita Chaitanya, and Brahmachari Vishwanatamrita Chaitanya. ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः 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 ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः. Let us now take a moment for a prayer seeking the divine guidance for the success of the session.
ॐ ध्यायामो धवलावकुण्डनवती तेजोमयी नैष्टिकी स्निग्धापाङ्गविलोकिनीं भगवतीं मन्दस्मितश्रीमुखीं वात्सल्यामृतवर्षिणीं सुमधुरं सङ्कीर्तनालापिनीं श्यामाङ्गे मधुस्निग्धसूक्तिम् अमृतानन्दात्मिकाम् ईश्वरी ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः ॐ अमृतेश्वर्यै नमः.
Brhat is a culture engine. The power creatives, research and design rooted in the Indian civilizational consciousness, thus converting individual, institutional and collective intent into action. An engine is an instrument for transformation, and this engine is to build the self-perpetuating civilizational moment. Allow me to take the privilege of introducing Sri Raghava Krishna ji, founder and CEO of Brhat Culture Creatives and Brhat Educational Trust, who has over 21 years of experience in game development, learning and entrepreneurship. Welcome, sir. Next, Sri Pankaj Saxena serves as a co-founder and director of cultural research at Brhat. He has a deep interest in cultural anthropology, evolutionary biology, and ecology, and his writing explains the beauty of Sanatana Dharma and Bharatavarsha through the stories about traditions, communities, and culture. Welcome, sir. Sri Amritanshu Pandey, Director of Strategy at Brhat, combines more than a decade of professional experience rooted in product development with a lifetime of engagement with ancient history. Welcome, sir. Sri Anurag Shukla serves as the Director of Policy Education at Brhat. His research interests include discourse technology in education, history of education, decolonizing education, arts and culture, and the civilizational heritage of India. Welcome, sir. I also take this opportunity to welcome Brahmachari Achyutamrita Chaitanya, Principal of Amrita School of Spiritual and Cultural Studies, and Brahmachari Vishwanatha Amrita Chaitanya, Chairman of Corporate Industrial Relations. Welcome, Swamiji. Indeed, a wonderful day to begin the lecture series and discussion with an absolutely apt title, Firekeepers of Civilization, with such eminent scholars. I now invite Brahmachari Vishwanathamrita Chaitanya to address the gathering.
Om Amriteshwari Namaha. Indeed, it's a very auspicious beginning for this first of its kind of program in our campus. Today also is the consecration of the Rama Janmabhoomi temple in Ayodhya. So it's auspicious in the sense, as all of us are aware, this is a kind of a situation that this country has been going through for almost 500 years, and finally our generation is seeing that a temple is again erected back in Ayodhya. So what is significant for this session? So what you're talking about also has a connect. All of us are in the 21st century. And when you look at our own memory of India and what it is, we don't go back to more than 200 plus years. But we all hear that India is a 10,000-year-old civilization. But our own civilizational memory is not even 200 years. There's a huge gap. And also we are aware that India is ready to find its place in the Community of Nations. And you are the generation which is going to reap the rewards of a great and developed future India. But for you to take advantage of that, it's so essential, so vital that you also know who you are. What is missing today is our identity. And unless you are clear about your identity, you would never know what is the possibility that you can aspire for in your life. Because your aspiration is so much intertwined with the aspiration of this nation. So it's like, you want to grow big, a giant tree, it has to, that roots have to go deep. If the roots are not deep enough, tree cannot grow beyond a point. So like that, India has a history which is very deep going. But because we are not aware of it, we really do not know our greatness. It's an elephant that doesn't know its greatness. It's a lion, in the form of a sheep. It's like that. The perception, imagine a lion carries the perception of a sheep. It will only behave and act so much. An Indian or a Bharatian, we should say Bharatian, without that perspective, without knowing who I am, we can only do so much. And when we are aware of who we are, we can really reach out, there is enough and enormous and infinite potential. So this session by Brhat, they come from Hyderabad. Okay, they're based in Hyderabad, and they're doing fantastic work in understanding India, understanding Indianness, Indian Bharatiyata, understanding our and what it is required for this generation to leap forward. So they're doing work in that specific domain. So they're specialists in that area. And this is indeed a great privilege for all of us here to be able to invite them over to a campus, and so that we get the benefit of all the research and the learning they have acquired, they mastered. They're also like you, all of us, engineers, professionals, but they all got, I would say, attracted and by the possibilities of what the study of our civilization, study of our history, study of your culture offers. And they are putting it in front of you, whatever they mastered in their own fields, just coming out of the passion. So we are all engineers, that no denying, we are going to become engineers. But many of us do not have the minds of an engineer. Our minds may be a historian, our minds may be of an archaeologist or a movie maker. I've seen from our own students who have graduated so many years, not even 50, 60 students, they pursue engineering. They move on because our passions are deeply, latently hidden. But it doesn't get expression because we really don't know ourselves. What are we? Because today engineering is more like a default education, is it not? So what we are inviting is just be open-minded about this program. See where it takes you. And we are setting on a great journey of self-exploration, self-discovery, and exploring the possibilities what we can achieve in our own lifetimes. In the process, we will know about Bharat, about its everything, about culture, civilization, all that. So it's a fantastic beginning on a great day. Wishing this program all the best. Praying to Amma for Amma's blessings, invoking her blessings so that this program is really wonderfully taken off. All of you, we have a couple of sessions, not just this, we have 1 or 2 sessions more. Please ensure that you come back for those sessions, and looking forward to a great journey together. Okay, thanking Raghavji, Pankajji, Anuragji, and Amridesh. Yeah, that they have taken time for us, for our students, for our community here in Amrita, all the way. And I extend a very hearty welcome to each one of them and look forward to wonderful sessions. Om Amriteshwari Namaha.
Thank you, Swamiji, for the thought-provoking words. Now it's time for the benedictory address. Please join me in inviting Brahmacharya Chitamrita Chaitanya to share his wisdom.
Om Namaste Gurave Nityam Sahajananda Rupini Yasya Vagamrdam Handi Visham Samsara Samnyagam. I bow down at the lotus feet of our beloved Amma, Master, and my salutations to the dignitaries who are on the dais, and Jyoti ma'am, the Associate Dean of the dais, and all the students who have joined this program, and those who have come along with our resource persons all the way from Hyderabad. So this is a really happy day, a new day in our life. In our Indian history also, this day will be marked as a milestone, there is no doubt. And here also, the students are being exposed to a vast tradition of wisdom that our great rishis have handed over us through millennia. And there are apt persons who are masters of this subject present amidst us, who will deliver their wisdom to all of us. Let me take this opportunity to just mention 2 points. From our philosophical background, let me tell you 2 things. What is the vision that our traditional wisdom has given us? Being the day on which Ramlalla temple is being consecrated, let me quote from Tulsidasa's Ramayana. And Tulsidasa was a person who tried to resolve this problem of Masjid Mandir 400 years back. And his masterpiece, which is the Vedas of North India, of Hindi-speaking area, Tulsidasa's Ramayana, Ramacharita is packed with our philosophy and all the actions that we have to put into practice in our daily life. All these things you can find in Tulsidasa's Ramayana. So about our vision, Tulsidasa says, many of you might have heard that verse, Siya Ramamaya Sabha Jagajani, Karavu Pranama Jodi Jugupani. seeing the divinity everywhere. The whole world should be seen as the manifestation of the divinity. Siya Ramamaya Sabha Jagjani. And then the next outcome of, natural outcome of that vision is Karavu Pranama Jori Jugupani. We should have a reverential approach to the whole world because it is a manifestation of divinity. So this is our philosophical standpoint that Tulsidasa has given. His work, Ramacharita is the essence of Indian culture. Then about our daily life, how should we live? How should we achieve? How should we conduct in this world? Tulsidasa says, Kirati Bhanidi Bhudi Bali Soyi, Surasari Sama Sabakaha Hita Hoyi. We can acquire anything positive is allowed to be acquired in our tradition. Our tradition is not the tradition of Vairagis. It is not the tradition of Fakirs. It is not the tradition of Sannyasis only. True, they have a very high place in our tradition, but all are allowed to enjoy this world, acquire as much as they can in the righteous way. But there is a condition. Kirti Bhanidi Bhudi Bhalisoi. Kirti means our fame, our status. Bhaniti means our education. The word meaning is word, Bhaniti, word. But it represents all our education. Bhudi means wealth. So the social status or name and fame that we acquire, the education that we get, the wealth that we amass becomes worth. Surasari Sama Sabakaha Hita Hoyi. It should be beneficial to the Ganges, like the Ganges. Ganges, you know, it starts from the topmost portions of Himalayas and it finds its goal in the Ganga Sagar in Bengal. You know that. But through that journey, it benefits everyone. Some people say there were caste distinctions, many distinctions were there, but Ganga is benefited for everyone. Everyone can take a dip, can take the water, can drink the water, can enjoy sitting on its shores. And it is a pilgrim center. Even you can attain moksha by worshipping Ganga. That's our concept. So like Ganga, which benefits everyone, Ganga Devi who benefits everyone, irrespective of their, even they being animals, human beings, birds, snakes, anything, reptiles, anything, everybody is benefited by Gangaji. In the same way, our kirti, our education, and our wealth should be of benefit to the whole creation. This is the practical way to approach life according to our philosophy. The spiritual vision should be everything is God. And the practical way should be everything should be of benefit to the whole world, whole creation. So in the coming coming 3 days, there will be different sessions which will elaborate on the different aspects of our culture, our traditional wisdom, the Arsha Vidya, the sages' knowledge, sages' education, the sages' wisdom that will be presented to you from different angles, in different dimensions. So all of you will be benefited by this, the series of lectures that are being delivered. And this is a very great blessings that Amma has given us to get exposed to our traditional wisdom. As Amma, Emini has quoted Amma's ways, Amma's words. Amma is a living example or living representative of that traditional Rishi's wisdom. And Amma promotes all these things, and you are all benefited by Amma's grace, Amma's blessings. So let us take this opportunity and move forward in our life and attain the final fulfillment of our lives. With these words, I wind up. I offer my words at Amma's lotus feet. Om Amriteshwari Namah.
Thank you, Swamiji, for those thought-provoking words. I thank all the dignitaries for joining us in this inaugural ceremony. I request if the dignitaries could take the seats arranged below along with the audience so that we can start. Like I have not fully welcomed the Brhat team, so I will also like to welcome Lakshmi Shivaraman and Padmavati ma'am, the research associates of Brhat team. Welcome, ma'am.
Om Namah Shivaya. A warm good morning to one and all gathered here. Today, we have a truly inspiring journey ahead, a voyage into the depths of Indic civilizational mind for global future. Guys, it's not just a session, it's an exploration of timeless wisdom, a reflection on the very essence of how the Indian perspective can shape our shared planetary destiny. Imagine it as a mental roller coaster that will make you see the world in a whole new light. So, in the next hour, we are privileged to be guided by a beacon of knowledge, Sri Raghava Krishna ji. His insights are not just scholarly, they are transformative. But before we dive into this profound wisdom, let me take some time to give you a brief picture of what is awaiting you. So, guys, imagine unlocking the secrets of an ancient civilization, understanding the roots of a timeless worldview that holds the key to a collective future. Picture yourself embarking on a mental journey, traversing the rich tapestry of India's intellectual heritage and discovering its relevance for the global challenges we face today. Now, our guide for this intellectual odyssey, Sri Raghava Krishna ji, founder and CEO of Brhat Culture Creatives and Brhat Educational Trust, holds an experience of 21 years spanning game development, learning, and entrepreneurship. His expertise lies in leading cross functional creative product development teams, learning design, and organizational culture. He was the co founder and associate dean of academics at Rashram School of Public Leadership. As a student of Indic knowledge systems and public policy, he speaks to provide perspectives on tackling global challenges from an Indian civilizational worldview. I would say he is a maestro weaving the threads of tradition into the fabric of our contemporary world. He brings not just knowledge, but a living connection to the heartbeat of ancient wisdom. As we delve into this session, you will find that this isn't a mere discussion, it's an invitation to broaden our perspectives, challenge us, our assumptions, and consider a global future shaped by the profound insights of an Indic mind. So, guys, buckle up. Dear students, as we embark on a journey that transcends time and space, you can trust me, it's not a complicated jargon, just cool insights that will make you just like wow. So, without further ado, let's extend a warm welcome to our guide, our mentor, Sri Raghava Krishna ji, to this session. Over to you, ji.
To me, to come back to Amrita is like coming back to a mother's womb. That's how I feel here. All the time, it's very, very filled with love. Too many big words early in the morning: civilization, civilizational mind, roots, identity. My concern for the next 1 hour is you, is each one of you. I want to understand what's going on in your mind when you hear these words, because I was there. I'm distinctly uncomfortable on this side. I'm very, very comfortable sitting on the other side and trying to understand my own mind. So what I'd like to do is have a dialogue in the next 1 hour to discover each other and maybe share, because I've gone through the same journey as you are going through now. And I've realized a few things by making mistakes far bigger than the mistakes that you make, that there are some things that bind each one of us, right? Swamiji spoke about roots and how roots uphold the branch and the trunk. This metaphor of a tree is something that is repeatedly used in the Indian civilization. Indian civilization itself is often compared and given a metaphorical equivalence to the banyan tree. Some of you must have seen that, right? Anybody here knows why Indian civilization is always represented by a banyan tree? Anyone? Okay. That's homework. Figure out maybe by the end of this session why that happens. But how many of you play video games or mobile games? This I know I'll get a response. Okay. Good. Any of you played Tetris? Some of you played Tetris. Fantastic. Any of you played Plants vs. Zombies? Fantastic. So let's try and understand the statement of roots and culture and how that produces identity. Any of you know the history of Tetris? Tetris was produced, it's obviously one of the world's most popular games. It was produced and created by one developer, one creator in Russia. And if you look at the game, the Tetris game, you have blocks falling in and you have to fit it in, right? And he was through that creation trying to help us understand what it is to live in a socialist state, where you're just a block that is arranged by the state to fit in. And the minute you fit in, you vanish. You see that connection? We play it because there is a skill involved. We play it because there is some kind of design that actually encourages us to demonstrate our skill using the game design. But there is a deeper, subtler cultural commentary that the creator is trying to make. It is that there is a state that is creating a tetrimino. Each block is called a tetrimino. And the block is dropping in, and there is already a bounded condition in which you have to fit in. So he was revolting against a life that was designed by the state. Do you see how profoundly culture and roots actually impact everything that you do? Now let's look at Plants vs. Zombies. Some of you said you played Plants vs. Zombies. Anybody here knows what that game is about or want to say a few things about the game? What is that game about? Feel free, you can shout. You don't need to be disciplined. The advantage is I'm not your teacher with any authority. We're all friends. So what is Plants vs. Zombies about? Anybody who's played the game? Okay, Plants vs. Zombies is a very weird creative game that is so characteristic of the American creative streak, where you have zombies coming in and you have plants which are shooting them down, right? And it's a very interesting, very quirky, very creative history about the game itself. The game was developed through a series of conversations with people sitting in a bar and writing down certain things. And they actually, if you go to Seattle where the game team was, you would notice that they would actually take you through a tour of the tables where they engraved. They were sitting together for long hours, having coffee, having conversations around culture and what they want to show through their game. And the first designs of that actually were engraved on tables in that cafe. So Plants vs. Zombies is a culture where the culture has lost its belief in anything sacred. So therefore, for them, zombie attack is imminent. Zombie is actually a very interesting cultural meme. If you look at the American pop culture, you would notice that zombies is a repeating theme. Now contrast this in your mind. In the Indian civilizational mind, it is the banyan tree, and it is the American cultural mind, it is the zombies. Now if you explore this journey about why culture gives us certain metaphors, why all creative artists, doesn't matter which culture they belong to, but they all try and use certain cultural props to explain the world around them. In India, like we just heard what Goswami Tulsidas ji did, was to reconnect us back to the ancient Ganga tradition. It was to connect us back to the root. In the American cultural mind, the zombie takeover is an apocalypse in the future. Now we have to ask ourselves, why is it that the most materially rich civilization, the number one superpower, undisputed leader of the world in a post-World War II scenario, why do people there get so enamored by a dystopian future? What is zombies after all? What is zombies? Zombies is, a state where all the dead are walking again. There is no life. It's a very dystopian future. So how is it that material prosperity and such creative genius is producing a vision of dystopia? The reason to understand civilization, civilizational mind, all the big things, big words that we talk about, is not so much about what has happened 5,000 years ago alone, although that matters and we'll come to that. But it has to begin with actually the kindling of wonder and curiosity in our minds. To actually understand why we use the metaphors that we do. Why do our languages have certain ideas? I've mentioned this elsewhere when I was talking about design. How many of you use Paytm? All of you, right? When you make a payment, there is a prompt. Anybody here can recollect what the prompt is in English? If you make a payment of 100 rupees, what does it say? It says 100 rupees received, because the prompt is for the vendor. Anybody knows what it says in Hindi? What does it say in Hindi? It says 100 rupees prapt huए. Now what is the difference between prapt and received. Is there a difference? Is there a word called prapt or equivalent of prapt in your mother tongue? In my mother tongue, Telugu, praptam is a very powerful word. Praptam ante enti? What is prapt? Prapt is not just a transaction. It is not just about giving and taking. Prapt is worthiness. Prapt is actually doing something that can beget you something in return. So here, the shopkeeper is being reminded using the mother tongue that you have done a good service for which you've received the rightful return. It's a concept of karma. It's not a concept of business. Do you see this? A single word, if you examine it deeply, can tell you everything about your culture. It can tell you that this culture is not a transactional culture. This culture is not about giving and taking. This culture is about earning. So when we talk about a civilizational mind, it is not so much about all the greatness that was there. That is there, that is the anchor. But this is fundamentally about you having a new pair of eyes, getting yourself a new vision to understand the world that you live in around yourself. And to rediscover your wonder, and through that, get a little bit of gratitude for what you belong to, is the greatest act of liberty that you can ever have. I'll tell you, I was sitting here. Like I said, I come from a corporate experience, and my backdrop was in game development, and all places have rituals. Even those places who say we don't have rituals, they actually have more rituals. But in corporate and largely in public culture today, and this is what the global liberal culture that we live in, it has achieved a remarkable thing, and we should give it respect. It has achieved the discourse of equality. If you go out into a company today, and if you start working, all of you are engineers, you will go out, work in different organizations, start your own organizations. You would notice that in a typical Americanized, globalized corporate culture, the emphasis is on equality. You will call your boss with their first name. You will not have this podium kind of arrangement. You would probably be, made to sit equally in a room. There will be a lot of extra effort to appear casual. But since you are not experienced, or since you haven't experienced that before, you feel that it is freedom, that everybody is actually giving you the respect, everybody is treating you as an equal. It's a very powerful feeling. And it actually enables you to be creative. It creates a certain kind of psychological comfort that you can say whatever you want to say, you can be yourself, and you can actually, be heard. So this is something that creative organizations try and understand and try and make this part of their culture. But if you do not examine it critically, and you will notice this, and I've gone through this. So we keep what we call the fireside chats, right? And I'm talking about the contrast between fireside versus Firekeepers. That is what we're calling this program. Imagine yourself to be in a fireside chat where you're sitting on a bar stool, sitting next to your boss, and you're able to have a conversation about the team or about your product or about your engineering techniques or code or whatever that you're doing, right? Invariably, you would notice that there is this discourse of equality, and you can say whatever you can say. But in about 6 months, when it is time for benefit distribution, there is no equality. You would have so much of jealousy, both directed at you, and so much of jealousy that you would produce for others, because under the guise of equality, you will have to distribute benefits unequally. Because your bonus cannot be equal. If your bonus is equal, if your salary is equal, then you're a tetrimino in a Tetris game. But you are a zombie in the American corporate game. You're not a tetrimino. So there, it gives you the facade of equality. It gives you the superficial access of equality. And then it puts you in a spot where you're not able to deal with any kind of actual real world hierarchies. And that rebels. It produces jealousy and envy at an institutional scale. Now contrast that with the design that we have here. The design that we have here is such people who are our masters, they will come to the dais and say, we are the masters. I am nobody. I'm a literal nobody compared to the Anushtana, compared to the sadhana, compared to what they are building here day in and day out. But they will have the culture to say, we are we are gracious enough to spend time. We have nothing else to do. All we want to do is come here and talk to you. So it is our opportunity. This is a culture that does not put a show of respect. It does not do the superficial act of equality. It binds you at a higher level. And why is that humility there? Where do we get that humility from? Can we get that humility from just being on a first name basis? Can you really get humble just because you're talking to each other? All of you have your own lingo, right? You must have certain groups. Can you get humility just by being friends? Think about what produces humility. Humility in humans is deeply linked to wonder. Humility happens when you see and actually come into contact with something that is far greater than you. It is when you really see the spark of something that is eternal and you realize that you are transient, is when that moment of humility gets really deepened. Otherwise, for most part of our life, we are so consumed with our own proclivities. We are consumed with our habits. So when we talk about a civilizational mind, think about the civilizational mind as something that takes you from compulsive loop that we are all in today to a conscious loop. This journey from compulsion to consciousness, or to at least conscious behavior, is what this program is about. We can talk about nation states. I will talk about what kind of changes are happening in the world today. We will get the design of this series of lectures is that I will try and open it up, trying to create a sense of where we are and what is the world heading towards, and why we need to have a different way as Indians and as Indians alone to look at this. But it is fundamentally about you and your mind. Somebody spoke about the engineering mind, the scientific mind, the artistic mind. The Indian mind has always been the integral mind. It does not distinguish, or it does not even recognize the differences that you have in your disciplines. So on that note, you can also ask one big question. When did knowledge get organized into engineering, science, arts, social sciences, political science, or whatever departments you see? Does life work as that? When you go out into the world, does the world differentiate between engineering, art, social science, political science? Life seems to be coming together in all of these things together. It is all the things thrown at you together. Just because you're an engineer, the world is not going to stop and not give you politics. Just because you're a political science student, it's not going to give you art. The world will throw everything at you, and it is asking you to be the sense maker. This program is to empower you with the ability to make sense of a complex, complicated world. Would we like that? How many of us, I'll just reel out some emotions, tell me how many of you feel it. Feel it either frequently, feel it once or twice. How many of you feel joyous, utterly happy? There need not be any reason. Slightly hesitant, but yeah, sometimes we do. It might look bad if you are not happy. Good. Yeah. How many of you feel envious? Let's be honest. I feel envy all the time. So how many of you share my emotion of, envy? It's such an elevated crowd. Nobody feels envious. I think education has really done its job. How many of you feel anxious? Anxiety seems to be slightly better received. That hand is but for both envy and anxiety. They are related also. Anxiety. Okay. We'll talk about anxiety. This program is to reduce that anxiety. How many of you feel generous? Like giving for no reason. You feel that? Fantastic. It's the greatest emotion that you can have. If you can somehow cultivate that emotion, then that is the real purpose of education. Okay, so these emotions, fear, how many of you experience fear? A lot of us experience fear. Okay. There's a new word that's been introduced into India, and as we go along, we will really, really deconstruct this word. How many of you feel stress? A lot of stress, no, in the world? Okay. Okay. How many of you feel that you feel stressful, anxious, envious because of comparison. Right? If you go back to this one, it's because there is a comparison with something else that we are being taught about what we don't have. And if you don't have that, then there is anxiety, and anxiety leads to jealousy, that leads to anger. Right? Now, where does comparison come from mostly? Today, what is the source of comparison? One is, of course, our parents. Everybody likes to blame them. We'll understand that that is not their fault. We have to be a little bit more empathetic to our parents. But ignoring that, where does comparison come from? Have we asked ourselves? Have you ever thought about the architecture of comparison, which leads to envy, anger, anxiety, stress? You are having a happy day. I'll give you a real story. This happened in my career. Typically, the drama in a corporate office, and if you guys start working, and all of you will start working in offices, is around when bonuses and yearly appraisals are done, right? And there was a senior manager who was reporting into me. And of course, we had the conversation around his annual appraisal, and he got whatever, the rating and this one. He was very happy because he felt that was an honest assessment of his work. We had a very good conversation about the strengths and weaknesses. We arrived at some of the things that he needs to correct, and we arrived at some things that I need to do to enable that. And I felt good. I felt good that at least there was an honest conversation. There was no, bad blood. And he also understood my constraints, and we had a meaningful exchange. But by evening, he was absolutely sullen. He was completely taken down, and I said, what happened? So between morning and evening, only one thing happened. He ventured to ask other people what they got. And this is common, right? You're always looking at what others have got, not whether what you have got in return to your effort. So the same quantum of whatever recognition he got, which gave him gratitude and made him generous, just by the act of comparison and looking at something that he cannot anyways control, turned into envy, turned into anger. Now, where is this residing? Is it affecting the person that he or she is comparing himself with? Who is it affecting? It's affecting us, right? Now, today, if you are to ask that question once again, as a student, as somebody in culture, this comparison comes to you from your social media, isn't it? The number one purveyor of comparative kind of mentality is just looking constantly at how many likes you've got, how many friends have commented. What has happened here is all of us have, as human beings, actually have all these emotions. We have fear, anxiety, envy, jealousy, but we also have generosity, we have love, we have humility. The job of culture, the reason why you need a civilizational mind, is that we are equally susceptible to go down to the baser tendencies, or with some effort, we can also actually go towards the higher tendencies. The only purpose in life is to constantly move towards and stay in the higher tendency zone. And to do that, you need a culture that is supporting. Now, today, compare that with what we've seen as a protocol and ritual here, where we light a lamp, we bow down, we actually praise each other with generosity. Is there any fear of insecurity there? What makes such deep Swami culture have the ability to respect and praise somebody like us? Imagine the security and freedom that they should have. And imagine for 1 minute the love and concern that they must have for you as a student of Amrita University, for your future, that they are willing to actually bow down to people who have no knowledge compared to them, and then say, come here and talk to our students. Which culture will sustain? Will the comparative, jealousy, envy-inducing culture sustain? Or will the culture that does this, which bows down to a sacred, which is actually experiencing liberty by just being yourself and have the ability to include everyone, which will sustain? So the civilizational mind is the expansion of this feeling of oneness. The ability to look at everything together and then bring it down into a joyous, really enduring kind of just harmony within ourselves. But I'm talking to you. I moved out of game development, I moved into learning because I realized at some point in my journey that as a culture, as a global culture, we are producing, mass producing at an industrial scale, fractured minds. We are mass producing comparison, we are mass producing hysteria, we are mass producing anger, we are mass producing envy and jealousy. And whatever we do as a team is to actually transform this entire mass cultural engine. The reason we call ourselves as culture engine is to use the same power of technology, same power of creativity, same power of arts, same power of storytelling, but to actually transform it from a envy, jealousy, anger producing machine into a joy and harmony producing culture. And that's what we are going to talk to you about. But why is this now? Why is this critical now? I've given you some hints, but here is some data. If you look at the last 200, 300 years of human history, some seminal movements, the invention of steam engine in early 1800s, around 1790s, was one of the seminal movements that changed the way you are today, right? The steam engine invention obviously gave way to railways in about 40, 60 years. And if you look at this period between 1840 to 1920, you did not probably have any earth-shattering inventions. So there was time. You also have to always understand that there is an interplay between technology, society, and culture. When a new technology is created, the society and culture has to adjust to it. Understand this? So the social evolution is slower than the technological evolution. It usually takes about 40, 50 years for a society to settle down with a new rapid technology. If you look at what happened between steam engine, railways, and from railways to the next one, which is in communications, there was a little bit of time for society to at least regroup, understand, this is where artists do artwork, writers write, filmmakers produce films, there is a social conversation around it. All of your social technologies of communication, of meaning making, of settling down, are able to catch up and say, okay, this is the new level of balance and equilibrium now. But then something else happened in 1900, which once again required society to replug itself. You had a revolution in communication. Always remember, change, rapid change in the world happens when you reduce, when two or three things happen. One, you create a new way of condensing energy and actually putting it into something, which is what steam engine is. It's actually a transmission of energy. Two, when you change and alter the way people communicate, which means that networks, if you look at your own classes now or your own friend circle, each of that is a network. And you behave very differently in different networks. And there are established communication patterns, whether it's in a classroom or in your WhatsApp groups, you will have certain other classification there. So there is some way for you to make sense of who is in, who is out, what is your way, and how you should behave. But suddenly when the walls are completely broken, you will have to regroup again. Imagine tomorrow you are in a new WhatsApp group with the entire world. Will you go out and say something? But in your own smaller group, you're likely to express yourself better. So there is always a cultural, behavioral, social change that needs to actually happen to adapt to the technological change. This is the nature of human societies. Human creativity will always create new things, either to make energy use inefficient or more efficient, or to actually create new forms of communication. Whenever these two things happen, or one or two things happen, then the society has to regroup. So the society regrouped around, let's say, early 1900s with massive and sudden spurt of creativity. And there's an interesting history of physics behind this. But telephone, automobile, electricity, all of these things were new. Everything that we take for granted today, if you were to just close your mind and for a minute imagine that you go back to 17th century today, and just write down what are the things around you that you would actually see as completely being new, and what are the things that you would have experienced even if you lived in 1700. Always do these things because imagination is far greater than talent. I can tell you, having worked with hundreds and hundreds of creative people, that it's not the talented people who really shine or produce. It's people who consistently hone their imagination and are curious about those things who are able to run past. And to do that, you will have to imagine yourself in different contexts. That was another spurt in human history. And then the next revolution happened, when we were growing up. Of course, the project started in 1950s. Like always, it happens through a push by the state. It happens through the agency of war. There are many other macro political, historical factors that determine. But end result for the human civilization is that it has to actually tackle with the changes that happen. So computers and internet technology in the last 40, 50 years is the number one driver of change. Now, if you, the generation that you belong to, you're born into this already. You are what we call digital natives, right? You're born into a digital culture. You are growing up with mobile telephony. You're already growing up in a world which is actually interacting with everyone, right? Now, what has happened in the last 10 years with this is that already the space was getting reduced. You see that 60 years, steam engine to railways, and then there was a nice period for society to regroup. But then 1900s, early 1900s, suddenly there was a spurt. And then next 40, 50 years, there was a lull. In the last 40 years, and particularly in the last 10 years, all kinds of energy and communication innovation and spreading to biological area as well have come together. There are 5 main technological changes that are driving the world today. Artificial intelligence, all of you are aware of this. Some of you might be reading this. Artificial intelligence or this kind of computing power is not possible without actually innovation in storage space. If you didn't have cloud technologies, if you didn't have AWS, if you didn't have all of the cloud technologies, then there was no way for energy to be stored. Similarly, robotics. You will enter a work world where you're competing not just with people in your class, but you're competing with the fastest machine, which the boss has great affinity for because the robo doesn't question. Or at least at this point, our assumption is that the robo will not feel envy. If and when they do, then we'll probably have a different kind of problem, right? Then there is another, like I said, it's also spreading into the biological area. We are trying to play God. You're entering a workforce where a lot of creative, technological, political, and capital power is being put into the service of trying to become God. We want to alter DNAs. We want to create new kind of mechanisms. We want to create new kind of organisms. All of these things are happening. And then there is, of course, blockchain technology so that there is real distributed kind of ownership of all of this. You will, whether you recognize this or not at this time, you will actually go through this. This also means that we need to understand what these things actually do to us. The first innovation in the first industrial revolution was steam, and that created a new energy using water and condensed pressure, right? Then electricity. Third is computing. But the fourth one, what we are talking about, Industrial Revolution 4.0, now we are also talking about 5.0 now. Have you heard of this term, Industrial Revolution 4.0? How many of you have heard of this? So Industrial Revolution, have we heard? Right? Industrial Revolution is when machine first started replacing men, right? In automated production ways. And then, of course, like I said, computers started automating more and more and had more power. The technology also moved from just physical material to computing power. But the fourth industrial revolution is something that is going to change the way you think. It is trying to replicate your mind. It's not playing with the material in the world. It is actually trying to play with your mind. The greatest strategy that any of you can have to be successful in your own life in a complex world post-industrial revolution 4.0 is to know your own mind more and more. Because the computer is trying to actually replicate your mind. This is what we call deep mind. This is what we call deep learning. All of our neural pathways, all of our activities, which is evolutionary, which is also biological, is now being captured as data and fed into the computer. What we call machine learning, what we call artificial intelligence, is that it is trying to replicate not just some computing power, but it is trying to replicate the way you make that decision. And therefore, you can, theoretically, and there is a very fair risk that you can become redundant. Because after all, what is it that you bring to the world? What do you bring to the world? You bring your intelligence, you bring your energy, you bring your integrity, you bring your character, you bring your passion, you bring your ability to deal with adversity. These are all human traits, right? So today, the power of technology or the push for technology is to try and imbue all of these into technology. And that is the world that you are going to inhabit. Right? It is a complex world. And in a complex world, you have two choices. Either be burdened by complexity and reduce yourself to anxiety, or take charge of your mind and become somebody who is able to use that for the greater good that Tulsidas ji said. The challenge today is, how do you become like Ma Ganga in a world of blockchain and robotics? How do you retain the spirit? And like I said, that can only come from this culture, because this culture has that vision. It is not yet completely obsessed by zombies, or it is not thinking about yourself as a block to be fit into a game. You are a full human being. You have integrity and you have integrality. You are a spiritual being, you are a political being, you are a psychological being, you are a social being, you are a deeply personal, emotional being. All of these dimensions of life, your emotions, your psychology, your social interaction, your fears, your interpersonal interaction, all of this can be handled only if you start working on your mind. And that is why this civilization, when we talk about philosophy of education in this civilization, it was firstly and always about the self. Because whatever rate of change happens in the environment, the only real strategic asset that you have is the ability to consult your own mind to outpace that, or to be able to be stable along with that. So the next time you feel some emotion, the next time you actually start making some decision, try and become a little bit more mindful about what is guiding you. Is it compulsive or is it conscious? At the first level, just this micro shift from doing things automatically, from the way you speak, you stand, you sit, you come across, just automatically. All of these are automated things now, right? They're all automated. How often do I actually think about how I stand, how I breathe, how I speak, how do I maintain eye contact, what is my posture? If you start thinking about these things, you will start making the journey from compulsion to consciousness. And the minute you do that, you are gaining a strategic advantage for yourself, not for civilization. Because if the computer can do everything that you can already do, your only advantage is at a higher level in terms of your behavior, in terms of your wisdom, in terms of knowing where to deploy your skill, towards what purpose. Because the computer cannot tell you what is good or wrong. And here is the central idea of our civilization, which starts registering in our minds. And the more you contemplate on this word, the more you start seeing this in your own behaviors, and ask yourself this word called dharma. We don't need to even get into any other idea, any other this one. The minute you start meditating on dharma and understanding dharma as behavior, you will start seeing a different kind of freedom in your mind. The minute you start on the path of dharma, you're already gaining a strategic advantage in your career. The future belongs to the dharmic mind. Remember this, if you really want to be successful in your career, the number one and the only strategy is dharma. And dharma is always behavioral. And that is the purpose of whatever we're going to discuss in the next 3 days. Now, I already mentioned this, there are 3 spaces in which these rapid changes are happening: physical, digital, and biological. And they interact and intersect with 5 elements. And this is, for those of you who are interested, ironically, this comes from a person who is actually creating a lot of this damage. But there is a nice trick that the Western mind has, where they already anticipate all the damages, but they still go ahead and create it, but then say that we've already written about it. So a guy who runs WEF, he has written this book on Industrial Revolution 4.0, and he puts a nice framework for physical, digital, and biological. Physical, we know, autonomous cars are coming, robotics is coming. Digital, you know, all the digital AI kind of technologies. Biological also, you know, your CRISPR, your gene editing, all of these technologies are coming in. And they will interplay with 5 elements. They will change the way economy is designed and performed. They will change the nature and the kind of business. Already we are in what is called in the business world a perpetual beta. When I started working in game development back in 2010, we had, obviously you didn't have this kind of mobile phones. I was in mobile game development forever. Uh, at that time, the mobile phones were not a platform in the sense that you didn't have Android and iPhone. You had different kind of handsets. And as engineering students, as design students, you needed to make sure that the game runs on different kinds of handsets, which was basically a play of computing how much mathematical memory is available and how do you optimize your art assets to play with that. Because ultimately that's what it is. The mobile or the computer is exactly like your mind. It has a certain potency, it has a certain storage capacity. If you start putting it with a lot of garbage, it comes out with garbage. That's why you have a recycle bin. Even in terms of opinions, in terms of your digital consumption, in terms of your friend interactions, every single day you're consuming this, you will need to purge some of this into the recycle bin and retain what is really needed. Otherwise, just like the computer, our minds also and bodies also become slow. So, but at that time, they didn't have that. So when that happened, when the shift happened to platform, suddenly we had to change all of our processes, working, technology, because now it was not just putting the game and giving it to the consumer. In a platform, the consumer is always connected to you. If your platform goes down, he cannot connect and play. How many of you are doing computer engineering here? Computer sciences, some of you are in computer sciences. Do you understand the challenge of actually having a system that's always on? You need a back-end infrastructure, you need a UI, you need some kind of APIs that are always functional. So this world in the last 10, 15 years is an always-on world. And the relationship between people who are producing and people who are consuming has altered forever. The producer is in a 24/7 mode. The producer always has to be on, available for the consumer. This means a lot of change in business process. This means a lot of change in company culture. So you're going to enter that world. You don't have even the advantage of comparing it with what it was. You are drafted into an always-on world. So you will have WhatsApp groups. You will have services that are up 24/7. You will have to do your shifts to try and make sure that some service is up. All of you will go and work on some product or service if you're in the industry, right? How do you actually handle yourself in all of this? You're entering a always-on 24/7 world. What is your strategy to hold yourself? This period of 3 years is the only time that you have to prepare. This is the only freedom that you have to actually invest in yourself. The minute you are in the market, in business, then you are expected to perform. And that expectation, that pressure to perform will not give you any breathing space. You have 3 years to invest in yourself. And I'm talking about a civilizational mind to take a larger responsibility. Forget civilizational mind for larger responsibilities. Even for you to do well in your own job and have a decent life, get that car, get that house, get married, whatever you wish to do in life, even for that basic thing, Indian civilizational mind is the only actual friend you have. And we'll discover why. The future I've already mentioned, there is deep learning, what is called the VUCA world. There is different terms that are used. The world is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. There is, because like I said, the computer is trying to reconfigure itself to be like a human mind. There is also massive reconfiguration. How many of you remember Ice Bucket Challenge? You must have been young. Very young. How many of you did it? A not so young person has done it. Right? Now, Ice Bucket Challenge was my first recognition of what was happening with social media. I was trying to understand, why is it that some trend somewhere in the world about putting ice on yourself, Ice Bucket Challenge was that you put ice on yourself and you nominate your friends to put ice on themselves and post that video on Facebook. And I realized my boss was putting it. My ex-boss was putting it. And I had respect for him till then. He was in Thailand by then, I was in a different company. I said, okay, I mean, it's fun. But that had nothing to do with our culture. It started as a meme somewhere in the world, in some remote part of the world. And in just 1 week, my boss, who is in Hyderabad, who's now in somewhere, he started posting it, and then 100 other people are following him. So when society gets radically networked, when you can have one-to-many communication in this kind of wide network, what happens is that the process of mimicking. Have you ever wondered how you develop your desire for something? that shirt that you want, that kind of fit that you want, that sari, that this one. These are all desires that we have. That's natural. Where does this come from? Does it come automatically from inside? Desire as a status is there, but that specific object, where does it come from? When you flip through Instagram, you notice something. And then that's the first impulse of the desire. I want to have that bike. I want to have that dress. I want to go to that party. See, desire is coming to us supplied by culture using technology. The minute that desire enters our mind, the only chance you have for conscious behavior is before the desire enters your mind. The minute it enters your mind, you are already completely subordinate to it. You are a slave. Has this happened to you? Let's take an example. How many of you watch movies or some kind of shows on Netflix? How often does it happen to you that you want to sit down and watch something and you start keep flipping, and then you get tired because you cannot decide? Happens all the time. So when I was growing up, we had Doordarshan, then we had DD2, then we had DD Assam, then we had whatever 4 channels, then we had Star TV, 5 channels, then we had, of course, the explosion of MTV, Channel V and all that, but it was still bound, right? You come into the world where relentlessly a global technology capital machine, a global machine, is beaming desires into the palm of your hand. And look at from a design perspective, for those who are design oriented. A TV is a living room experience, which means that you are sharing your vision with somebody. So you're unlikely to behave badly. Even if you want to watch something naughty, you will not, because there is somebody who is walking past. Yes or no? This is a lean back experience. Your world can be constricted to just the screen. And this screen is your private world. This is your doorway to all the fantasies. And these fantasies are produced and marketed and given to you relentlessly 24/7 with no cost. You're not paying anything in many ways for some of the content that you see. You're not paying for Facebook, you're not paying for Twitter, you're not paying for Instagram, you're not paying for whatever platforms. Are you paying? So if you're not paying, but it requires such sophisticated technology to produce, how are they making money? How are the businesses running? Advertisement. Why are the advertisers paying? Why are the advertisers paying? They are not a charitable organization, no? What are they paying for? The advertisers are paying for your mind, for your attention. That is why it is called the attention economy. There is an excess of supply because the product is not Facebook. The product is not Instagram. The product is not Twitter. The product is your attention. You are the commodity. You understand this? You are the commodity. If the app can somehow grab your attention and keep your attention for 5-6 hours, is when the advertisers come and pay Facebook. Right? So what does Facebook need to do to get more money? What does it need to do? It needs to create more and more addictive things. For your attention to be always there, it needs to create more and more addictive things. What are we addicted to? Not content, but what creates excitement. Either something that is completely debilitating or conflict. Why are there so many wars on the internet? Because by design, the platform and the technology gets more attention and therefore by extension more dollars, not when you and I just look at something and forget. Only when you and I express and fight about it and invite 10 other people to fight about it, they get more money. It does not matter if you are this wing, that wing, whatever wing, there's only one wing that is making money. So this ice bucket challenge is the first clue that you should remember about how desire formation happens. And using technology, this desire formation can be exported to the rest of the world. And it will be exported because the economy of the companies who are running this is based on getting more and more people to be addicted to that. This is what we mean by in IR 4.0 being about cognification. The colonization, Sir spoke about the 500 years of struggle and then another 500 years before that, the violence that was there in this nation. That was all land grab. People used to come with armies, attack, take land, destroy your culture. Today, they don't need to do that. They can simply give you an ice bucket challenge. And you will do it yourself. You will willingly do it yourself. So we are slaves without actually recognizing that we are slaves. And that is being sold to you as freedom. Do you understand this? What is masked as freedom is actually slavery. Now look at the Indian mind. How many of you have heard the word vrata? Vrata, vratam, vratam, anusthana, vrata, right? What is the meaning of vrata? What is the design of vrata? It's not an ice bucket challenge because your stomach really, this one, it's not easy something that you can do and put it on internet because it's happening inside you. Vrata is where your civilization has designed a mechanism for you to truly go away from things that you're obsessed with. One is, of course, the entire, physical benefit of it. But there is a deeper spiritual benefit. The spiritual benefit of vrata is that you are withdrawing your senses. It is your senses which are going out into the world, coming into contact with objects. That is transformed as desire, and you are a complete slave of this desire. But when you do vrata, the objects are not going outward. The object is inward on your hunger. Then you start thinking everything that you take for granted every day. How many things have to come together for you to have that meal? At a very basic level, you will start developing gratitude for all the people who bring that to you. And when you experience gratitude, you expand. The next time that person irritates you, you are not annoyed, not because you don't like what they're doing. You're not annoyed because you have regained the locus of control to yourself by experiencing gratitude. You remember that moment of gratitude where this person's work actually feeds you. So when you go back to your parents, when you go back to your homes, when you go back to your classrooms, ask yourself, how can I practice more gratitude so that I can include everybody into my vision? Do this vrata, the digital vrata. Try and actually withdraw your senses and have them focus on the interior quality of your mind. Right? So I want to just focus on this. We have, how much time do we have? Completed. Classroom done. 10 more minutes? Okay. So let's do one quick activity. I'll reel out a few things, or you can also reel out a few things. Tell me if it induces fear in you or hope. Politics. The word politics, what does it conjure in your mind? Fear or hope? Hope? Fantastic. Politics is hope. Very good. Technology. Hope. Huh? Technology is hope or fear? Some of you think it is this one. Okay. Society. Society is fear. Okay. Good. Parents. Very good. Teachers. We have to say this, no? Huh? Social media, fear or hope? Oof. Okay. I want you to do this exercise for yourself. Just plot, think about certain things, all the things that happen, right? And plot for yourself. And it'll be great if you can share it with us. We are here for another 2-3 days. We'd love to look at least a few of you coming back and telling us what gives you hope and what gives you fear. Just take the journey of the next 3 years as an intellectual, spiritual, emotional undertaking to move all the things that you would plot in this graph here as fear towards hope. And to move that, just list down for yourself what are the things that you need. Some of us need knowledge. There is nothing that dispels fear like knowledge, right? You need knowledge, ultimately. Second is behavior, because it's you. You are fearful for you. Third is some kind of social interaction, because you never had that experience. You need some kind of social exposure. So list down for yourself the things that you are fearful of and that you would genuinely like to be moved to the hope zone, and list down the things that you would need as help. And let's partner to make sure that all the things that you're fearful of over whatever time that we're going to be, and we're going to announce some kind of extended engagement, I want to partner with each one of you to actually transfer the things that you are fearful of into hope by the time you finish your education. To me, that is the purpose of education. That is what Swami Vivekananda said. That is what the philosophy of this institution is. It is that knowledge is light, and light can never be fearful. Light just shines, right? So let's have a compact where you make a commitment to be true. You make a commitment to be disciplined. You make a commitment to actually show up and be honest about what are the things that you're fearful of. And we make a commitment to help you on the journey from fear to hope. Does that sound okay? How many of you would be excited on the journey? How many of you would want to be part of the journey to actually tackle yourself? Feels so intimidating. Half hand, fisted rises. Over the next 2-3 years, we'll do that. Okay, so I just want to, the sum of what I was trying to tell you is that you are in a world of acceleration. And in a world of acceleration, there is nothing as freedom giving or as exhilarating as just going slow. Slow down. Become more conscious. And in a world of distraction, the number one thing, even for your relationships, for your boyfriend, husband, wife, mother, brother, sister, whatever it is that you're going to have all the relationships in life, the only thing that will help you be good at that relationship, if you really want to find love of that girl, or if you want to find enduring love of that man, the only thing that you can genuinely offer is your attention. And the attention is now being commoditized at an industrial scale. So you will not be able to, and this is a real danger. I'm not saying this for effect. The challenge that we have is this world is extremely customized for her, right? You can put your avatar, you can put your friend list, you can put your boundary conditions. This world is talking to you. And there is a deeper yogic method in which we can explain this, but just think about this. This world is relentlessly talking to you, but when you step out of this world into the real world, that other person has no reason to behave in a manner that you like. So half of your existence, if not half, more than half of your existence, you are getting a feedback loop of the world being personalized for you. And the other half of the world is where nobody seems to care. Unfortunately, that is the fracture that your generation has. In some ways, my generation has created it, because we were not mindful of what technology we are creating. Because philosophy and Indian civilizational mind did not guide the creation of this technology. We are splitting you down the middle because one part of your existence is extremely customized, and it is customized for everyone. Everybody is living in their customized world. If everybody lives in their customized world, can you ever have a family? Can you have an institution like this? Just think about this, how tough paying attention has become. Even in this classroom right now, how tough it has become to actually be open and be attentive to, listen to somebody for 40 minutes. Indian education today, we all talk about bite size, 3-minute ka video bana do, 2-minute ka ye bana do, attract them. Education has also started using this language. The reality is we create what we conjure. If we conjure that attention is only for 2 minutes, you will end up creating minds that cannot concentrate for more than 2 minutes. And this is a civilization where even today, I'm sure in your campus, if you just go down, You will have people who can recite entire Mahabharata, Ramayana by rote through their memory. Is that not a moment of wonder? That you have people who can access textual traditions just through the sheer power of their memory. So human mind can expand infinitely or it can shrink indiscriminately. Today you are unfortunately living in that culture where we are shrinking you by design and you have to rebel against it. The real rebel is not against your parents, not against your class, not against some friend, not racing a bike alone. All of those things are okay. The real rebel, if you are really courageous, if you really have the gut, rebel against the downward tendencies that culture is giving you. You will stand out if you are able to do that. To do that, you need to understand a few things, and we will talk about this over the next 2-3 days. We are here, for till about 25th. I am there till 24th. My team is there till 25th. All of us are just here with one vision: to connect with you, to help you discover what this civilizational has given to us, and make that work for you. Not just about you rising up to something that will happen eventually, but right now at the stage that you are in, understand, learn, and become like a sponge that grasps everything. And over a period of time, you can discard the things that you don't need. Okay? Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the wonderful words. Well, hearing the session, the lecture that you gave, I'm again reminded of the Amma's quote that I started with. I would like to repeat that again for the students to hear it once again. So Amma said, "Today's youth are the pillars of tomorrow's world. The young have the potential to make great change in the world. We should channel their energy towards a good cause." What a wonderful thought of Amma that actually resonates with what Sir said, right? Don't you agree, guys? Come on, look up from your phones. Come on, everyone. Yeah, so I think you should take this opportunity to channel your energy from the fear that Sir said to the hope that he's trying to give you. So I think you should use this opportunity, and I extend a great welcome and thank you for this opportunity, sir.
So the framework for what you're going to discuss in the next 2 3 days is already set. So we will think on those lines. But it's very important that you participate. You also think in those lines, because the way things are playing out, the world you are going to live into, okay. So the contours of all those, it was already presented. If you're all fine, if you're all whatever, you have absorbed it well, that's great. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, after the sessions today evening, we can also probably, because they're all here in the campus, anyone of you would like to interact on a one-on-one basis also, we will, or in a small groups, we can plan that out. It's very important, because if you really want to be active participants in the building of this nation, you want to really matter to the world, you want to really contribute, you have to start thinking in this direction. Otherwise, as Raghuji rightly said, we can continue to be slaves. We can consume all these things, be in our own world, customized world, and the world will never know we existed. You understand? None of us exist for all practical purposes. For us to impact, we have to really grow beyond the shell. So this is an invitation for that, and let us, continue in this. So also, please don't miss your classes, sessions, because there's one another thing I would like to remind you, because this is as part of the AVP program. This attendance will go into that, and if you miss any sessions, because we are very clear, okay, there are a lot of commitment we are showing, so that you all get what is so important for your future, for your life. And the least you should do is to be part of it. Whether you are able to fully follow it, fully align with it, fully agree with, that's a different question. But not to be present here, honestly, not acceptable. So please ensure that your attendance is given. Those who are not part of this program, we will have these videos. We would like you to watch it again. We'll give you an assignment based on that. We don't want you to put you all through all that, but very clear. It is certain things we have to be firm. We want you to be here, part of this program. See whatever it is, whatever you are able to observe, that's fine. But not to be indifferent, to be not there, to be absent is honestly not acceptable. Otherwise, we would not want to run an institution like this, is it not? Yes or no? So we believe, we actually, all of you, we really see you as enormous potential that you have to create to change the world, to change many of the things, the direction which, but for us to do that, you have to be there, you have to be a willing participant. That's all the least we are requesting you. So please ensure your attendance is given. Those who do not have attendance, they will have a separate arrangement. You're going to go through the whole thing all over again, plus with an assignment. We don't want you to put through that laborious process. We would make it rather very easy. You'll agree with me? So yeah, not about you, but those who are absent. We are talking about them. Okay, so please, all the sessions come here, ensure, and faithfully, diligently, please give attendance. So that is the best way you can support yourself. Thank you, Raghavji. Great beginning. 3 sessions we have, and I'm actually one thing. In your 4 years of education here, this is going to be most transformational. So please make the best use of it. Namah Shivaya.